Tom. Good afternoon. I'm not sure where to start, except maybe to say that the Liberals are batting .666 so far. They beat two challenges to the budget. The second one today. There's still one to go, though.
Right. The real one. These are sort of fake.
Oh.
They're meaningless. It's essentially stuff that's being put up in the first case. Well, it's because Mr. Poilievre actually forgot to give his motion. He was, as a leader of the opposition, he got to make the main amendment, but he forgot to. So then it became a block main amendment with a Conservative sub-amendment, but neither of those matter because it's essentially not voting on the budget. You're voting on these minor parties, well, the official opposition and the Bloc's ideas about what should have been in the budget. So it's easy to knock those down. The NDP felt no pressure whatsoever to vote for any of that. The real one, as I say, is on the 17th when we come back, because Parliament has a tradition of taking the week off when it's Remembrance Day. So everybody will be off from today until Monday the 17th. That's when the real voting starts, around the budget. And that's when an accident could happen, because I don't expect the government to be defeated on any of these confidence motions, because any vote on a budget is a confidence motion, for a whole bunch of reasons. The Conservatives are in total disarray, and we'll get to that, I assume, in a minute. The Liberals are pretty confident they were able to steal a Conservative and make it even easier. They're only 2 votes off. The NDP doesn't have a leader, doesn't have any money, and doesn't have anything to run on. So maybe they're not in so much of a hurry to have an election either. Elizabeth May, by the way, her vote is going to count more than ever. She had one of the smartest takes on the budget, simply saying, look, the stuff in here on the environment is not on, but I'm going to try to get things changed between now and the 17th. And I thought that was really smart politics, essentially not doing the huffing and puffing like the Bloc did, just saying, there's stuff in here that I couldn't vote for, but maybe we can talk about it. So a mature adult response from Elizabeth May, the head of the Green Party.
All right. So let's get to what you're kind of, alluding to here, this idea. We had the one Conservative member, Chris Landrum, cross over, of course, earlier in the week. He joined the Liberals. And then we find out today that another Conservative, who after the fact it was found that had in fact been speaking, I think, Tom, right, to the Liberals, but chose to simply say he's going to resign for family reasons. And then Pierre Poilievre said, good luck to you. And he's not doing it till the spring, as if he was trying to cover his backside here. What's going on here?
A really good point about Poilievre somehow sticking his nose in this when he had nothing to do with it. Because all we knew from this, by the way, he's a really good guy, and I've had a chance to know him, Matt Genereux, from the Edmonton area, his writing. So he just put out his own statement saying he was going to be quitting from his job as an MP. But then there were hints in there that something was going wrong. Please stop calling my family, that sort of thing. So today, some more elements came out. Some of them seem quite disquieting. I suspect we're going to have to wait to read the Saturday papers to get a fuller version of this. But it would appear from some of the reporting that there were threats made against either him or his family or both. There's always a whack job out there willing to try to make themselves into something that they're not. But, it had been understood within Conservative ranks that he had been talking to the Liberals, meeting with Carney. That's kind of talking to the Liberals. And now it's Poilievre who last night, so I was doing a TV show, CTV last night, and we had that information like late in the day, early evening, that all of a sudden Poilievre is saying, no, he's only going to quit in the spring. So I think we're going to have to wait to see what shakes down in the papers. Are there other people who have been talking to the Liberals and or to Mark Carney? I'm starting to get the feeling there might be. And so the Liberals might be trying to bring in the majority that voters refuse to give them by bringing in some Conservatives.
So the other thing I want to get to, and we hadn't heard anything since Donald Trump, of course, reacting to the Doug Ford ad a week or so ago, had simply said, right, you know what, trade talks with Canada, they're off, we're not having them. But then apparently Mark Carney, I don't know if you're aware of this, Tom, yesterday told a business audience in Toronto, but didn't give details, suggesting that talks with the U.S. on trade will resume, quote, at some point. What's that mean?
Well, I go back to something that our outstanding, she really is outstanding, our outstanding ambassador to Washington, Kirsten Hillman, said about 10 days ago. She was appearing in front of a Senate committee and by video conference, and she said, look, Mr. Trump has said that he's pausing the negotiations between Canada and the United States, that there would be no negotiations. But she said the talks are continuing. So it seems to be a distinction without a difference, because if you're talking about what could go into a trade deal, you're negotiating.
Right. But
Trump says there's no negotiating, so everybody's playing the game saying, no, there's no negotiating, but we're continuing to talk. I think that that's what's giving some hope to Carney to say, look, yes, in the works. And I think that 50% of this is Trump actually genuinely upset that the government of Ontario ran an ad that hurt him so badly. Because there are a lot of people in the Republican world who really agree with what Ronald Reagan said, and Trump can say until the cows come home that they had twisted it and that wasn't really what Reagan said. All that did was push people to go listen to the full 5 minutes, and the ad from Ontario was perfectly in sync with what Reagan had said. So it's hurt Trump, and he lost all of his elections this week, which again hurts his brand. A lot of people are nervous as they head into what they call the midterms starting in January. We're in 2026, and people forget that congressmen only get elected 2 years at a time. They have to face election every 2 years. And so that election is incredibly important to them. And if Trump is way down, and he is down in the polls, people are not liking what they're seeing. They are seeing big increases in housing costs and in the cost of a car and things like that. They're not going to be happy with Trump because he was supposed to take care of them. But he got all that money in from the tariffs so he could give tax breaks to billionaires. And so I think that they're trying to look for another way to try to seduce voters in the next campaign, because what Trump's been doing for the past 6 months ain't going to work.
Yeah, speaking of the midterms, you think that these races over the weekend, I'm not talking about Mamdani necessarily New York, but Virginia flipping, New Jersey flipping, Democrats now starting to get a little bit of breath. You think this is a sign?
I do. I think it's a definite sign. And that's interesting, too, because we're all so bombarded with the bluster and the blarney and the baloney of Donald Trump, right? Boom, 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 I'm the best. It's amazing. The economy's never been better. This is perfect. Everything. I'm the best president. All this nonsense. You can dismiss it, but you hear it. And so when you get the actual results of votes, not a poll, not somebody's opinion as a talking head on a TV show. I do a lot of that for a living, so I'm not really knocking it, but I'm saying that doesn't actually change anything. What really counts is what's in the ballot box, and the ballot box right now is going Democrat, much stronger, by the way, Aaron, than anybody had predicted.
All right, let me just stay close to home. I want to get to this story because I think this is, the funniest turnaround. I'm using the word funniest loosely. The Quebec government, Jean-François Roberge, announces Quebec is cutting immigration targets, right, to 45,000 next year. And this is something they've been talking about doing for a long time, right, cutting the numbers, always saying, well, maybe it'll be 60, maybe it'll be 4. And then at the same time, as he announces that, he points to the federal budget and Ottawa lowering its own immigration target and actually says Ottawa has gone too far. This is the pot calling the kettle black, Tom, or am I missing something here?
You're not missing anything. I think that Minister Roberge is missing a few screws. He's done this before. The CAC was in its conference, its annual meeting, it's a big meeting of its members one weekend about a month ago. And they voted to say the federal government's got to stop sending all these temporary foreign workers to Quebec. Yeah. So the feds started drawing back the number of temporary foreign workers, and the same immigration minister, Jean-François Roberge, goes in front of the microphones a couple of days after they were all saying, hey, you're letting in too many, and saying, we never asked you to cut back that much. So he's trying to have it both ways, because there are businesses in Drummondville and in Trois-Rivières that are going to close if they don't have the temporary foreign workers. The employment numbers in Quebec are actually quite strong, given the potential effect of the tariffs on the aluminum industry, which is a huge employer. We're doing okay. We're getting by, as is Ontario, by the way, that created jobs last month. And young people are actually getting more jobs. So despite the front page news in the Wall Street Journal that says that Trump has crushed our economy, we're not doing that bad overall.
By the way, you should mention, speaking of the economy, we had 67,000 jobs in the month of October, well ahead of estimates, right?
That's it. That's my whole point. Yeah, exactly.
So we're doing okay.
Yesterday, the Wall Street Journal says, Trump's tariffs have completely crushed the Canadian economy. Baloney.
Yeah. Hey, Tom, is it time to end the STM strike or not?
The time is now to end the STM strike, and the time is to start sitting down and looking at doing something differently with regard to public agencies, whether it's the municipal police forces or the transit authorities. Here's the game that gets played by the unions, and we had on the French panel show that I do, we had on Wednesday night the head of the CSN on, and it couldn't have been clearer. The game that they play is this. They look at something that the transit authority in fill in the blank, Gatineau, Longueuil, Quebec City got in their most recent collective agreement. And then they turn around and say, boy, are we ever badly treated. So all of a sudden you've got bus drivers earning over $100,000 saying, this is terrible. We're really being hard done by. Give us a break. We're going to go on strike. And then they get something more, and then Gatineau in its next negotiations, well, we got to go get that. And the same thing repeats itself with municipal police forces. We have done this before in the past, and there's nothing illegal about it, is for the government to decree working conditions, once you've gotten everything looked at, that are going to be the same across a certain sector. That should be the case with public transit. That should be the case with municipal police forces. This idea that you're going to have 20, 30% differences from one to the other, and then the next one comes up for negotiation and insists on getting that, and then a top-off, that's what's happening in the province of Quebec. That's why we're nearly bankrupt. For all intents and purposes, Quebec is insolvent. And the reason that we're insolvent is nobody's ever taken the root cause of some of these problems and said, there's a different way to do it. We want bus drivers to be treated well. We want our police officers to be treated well. But we're going to stop this game of one-upmanship and negotiating up every time somebody else gets something in the next sector. Come up with a rule. This is what a municipal officer makes. Negotiate that fairly, and then that becomes the norm. But stop this nonsense of negotiating. The divide and conquer, the Union Centrals win that one every time, and the public always loses.
Tom Mulcair. Tom, thank you so much. You have a great weekend.
You too. All the best,
Take
Aaron.
good care. You bet.
I'm Luke Wilson. Join me each week for Film Never Lies. We're going in depth on football and a lot more. We'll pull back the curtain on life in the pros and dive deeper into the stories making the headlines. No hot takes, no lazy narratives, just real honest conversations. You can watch or listen to Film Never Lies on all the TSN platforms and iHeartRadio app.